Isn't it interesting to see how people on the left react when they get a taste of their own policies and the fruits thereof? Welcome in, everyone. I'm Zach Pieper, lead adventurer here at Team Adventurous. Got a breaking story. This is the article from Newsmax, but several outlets have covered this. Busloads of migrants arrive from Texas outside of VP Harris's house. Now, they have a video on this subject, but I'm just going to read this tweet that's in the video because it's really the only valid, interesting part of it. This is the Border Patrol official account retweeting a former official's tweet. Official Twitter account for U.S. Customs and Border Protection operations in the West Texas region retweets Stephen Miller. Hey, remember that guy? Trump official? He's in hot water now because Democrats hate him and want to punish Trump's associates? Yeah, that guy. The media's greatest power is its ability to frame what is a dire national crisis, e.g. cops are racist, summer 2020, and what is not. Biden's eradication of our border means we are no longer a republic. He's ended nearly 250 years of constitutional government, and the media is silent. And he's not wrong. And this is an ongoing effort by the political left in this country. And in fact, around the world, we see migrant crises taking place all over Europe. People seeking political and economic asylum. Often they claim to be seeking political and often religious asylum as well. And in fact, when they're interviewed on a one-to-one basis, they're there for economic opportunities and benefits. So, let's read this story about the U.S. 2 busloads of migrants arrive outside VP Harris's house Thursday morning. The Washington Examiner reported that Texas Governor Greg Abbott's administration had approved the drop-off. The migrants were dropped off at a bus stop nearby Harris's residence in the Naval Observatory residence in D.C. It came after Harris said Sunday the southern border is secure. He said in an interview with NBC, quote, and get ready to lose some brain cells. We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration. But there are still a lot of problems that we are trying to fix, given the deterioration that happened over the last 4 years. Really? Really? Over the last 4 years, you say? Because I have some data here that says the height of Trump's difficulty with immigration is lower than your current difficulty with immigration. Could it possibly be that a president's policies and the rhetoric of the government affect whether or not people choose to send their children to a foreign country's border? You see, what's happening right now at the southern border, if you'll excuse my ridiculous shenanigans, what's happening right now at the southern border is we're seeing an unprecedented number of children arrivals. Kids generally between 12 and 17, but often we see just little kids as young as 5. And parents are sending kids in these migrant caravans because Biden has announced that they're going to be let in. There were fewer kids arriving in these caravans when Trump was in office because Trump said, no, we're not going to let them in. And so parents didn't send their kids because they knew they wouldn't get in. Simple logic to follow, right? Should be. If you want to come check this article out for yourself, it's CNN. How the current U.S.-Mexico border crisis compares with the peak of the Trump era. There is some data in here that conflicts with, the position I would generally take, but I think that's mostly a matter of framing and the fact that the data for Biden's presidency has not finished flowing in. The data for this year has not finished flowing in. But the thing that I mainly want to highlight about this migrant crisis is that Democrats whine and complain, like Lori Lightfoot whining and complaining about migrants being bussed into Chicago, even though Chicago has these sanctuary policies. They absolutely lose their shit when they're forced to deal with the fruits of their own policies. And the other thing I want to highlight is the abuse that's taking place in these caravans. Sexual assault of migrants from Latin America to the United States, over on Wikipedia. I don't trust Wikipedia, but you can use it as a place to find references. And it took me first reference to check from BBC News, ute.uk. Mexico migrants face human rights crisis, says Amnesty. Migrants in Mexico are facing a major human rights crisis as the authorities fail to tackle widespread abuse, Amnesty International has warned. The human rights group said officials ignored or even played a part. So let me make this clear. Officials orchestrating and governing these migrant caravans played a part in the rape, kidnap, and murder of migrants, often carried out by criminal gangs. Tens of thousands of Central American migrants pass through Mexico every year to try to reach the U.S. and find work. Mexico has often stated its commitment to the protection of migrants. Really? Amnesty called on Mexico's government to prevent, punish, and remedy abuse. And they have a whole thing down here about the rampant sexual violence in these caravans. Because, man, it's almost like when you have thousands of unattended minors with no friends or family to look after them, people are going to abuse them. Elaborate from Judicial Watch. Elaborately planned caravan brings human trafficking and violent gangbangers to Guatemala. The migrant caravan marching northbound through Central America is an elaborately planned movement that's benefiting human smugglers and bringing disturbing numbers of violent gang members and other criminal elements through Guatemala, according to government sources in the capital city. This is the capital city of Guatemala. MS-13 gang members have been detained, and coyotes, which is human smugglers, are joining the march with clients who pay to get smuggled into the United States, a Guatemalan official told Judicial Watch. People from Asia countries waiting to get smuggled into the U.S. through Central America are also integrated with poor Hondurans in the caravan, a high-level Guatemalan government source said. Among them are nationals of Bangladesh. There's lots of human trafficking. I want to highlight this because, unlike the political left in this country, I actually care about kids. I actually want this violence against children to stop, and you are not going to have any luck protecting kids when they're just shipped across mass stretches of land without anyone there to protect them except the guy you paid to smuggle them into another country. These people, the smugglers, have no morals. They have no ethics. They don't give a damn what happens to these kids. If someone offers them an extra 20% to take that kid and do whatever to him, the smuggler's going to take it and say, "Have fun." The U.S. needs a strong policy on these caravans against them, and it needs a strong border wall. People need to know if you show up at the border, you will not get in. Period. Under no circumstances. And these caravans will stop. These caravans are a multi-million-dollar business. Every year, multiple times a year, these caravans form and smuggle people to the U.S., and the cost in human suffering is immense. I do not want to hear from Democrats about how we have a humanitarian crisis. I do not want to hear about the kids in cages under the Trump administration when it was Obama that built those cages under his administration. and how under Trump, the humanitarian crisis was well managed. But the fact of the matter is, as long as these migrant caravans are continuing, we're going to have a humanitarian crisis. Because one kid being trafficked is a humanitarian crisis in my eyes. The caravans have to stop, and Democrats aren't going to do it. In the meantime, I think that this political strategy by the right of busing these migrants into sanctuary cities, if they're gonna be in the U.S., put them in sanctuary cities where Democrats are in charge. Let the Democrats feel the brunt of their policies. I think that's an absolutely brilliant approach to take. If they're gonna be here, let them fuck up the Democrat cities more, because that's where they belong. Look, I live in Washington State. We have sanctuary cities here. I'm going to feel the brunt of that statement until I get out of here. And I stand by it. Because what people in this country have to start realizing is we are a lifeboat. That's what we are. The world is sinking right now. The COVID pandemic fucked up the global economy. There's migrant crises all across the globe. World War III is looming. The U.S. is a lifeboat for the world. A beacon of hope, or at least it used to be. Still is, clearly, considering thousands of migrants desperately struggle to get here every single day. Tens of thousands. And every undocumented person that comes to this country is another pinprick into the lifeboat. Our social systems can only support so much. Our law enforcement systems can only take so much. The people of this country who were born and raised here, whose parents or who themselves fought in wars to protect this country, to fight for our values, those people can only take so much. The pot is coming to a boil. And eventually, something's going to give. All right. If you have any comments on the story, or if there's any stories you'd like me to cover, please drop them down below. I always like hearing from you guys. Hit that subscribe button. It helps us out more than you can know. Share this around with your friends. That's what helps the most. And in the meantime, appreciate you being here. Welcome to the adventure.